What's up, everybody? Happy holidays and welcome to the Action Network podcast. I'm your host, Chris Raybon, and this is your NFL Week 16 betting preview. Today, we'll build our Sunday six pack of Against the Spread bets with the help of my co host, the Prime Minister of Degenerate Nation, Stuckey and Stuck. Just a brutal week for me. Some bad calls on the impact of the Pickens injury in that Philly game, and probably overestimated some of Seattle's recent upward trends. Can't know for sure because Geno did get hurt, but just a brutal week. But probably more painful for you because you had the Colts who were about to take a two-score lead, and then who's supposed to be their best player just drops the ball. That's your second time. I think you had the Texans. I want to say you had the Jets against the Texans, and you had a drop touchdown too. So I think that's two drop touchdowns that have gone against you this year. Just unbelievable.
Yeah, I had another losing week. Just not my year. It's a very bizarre year in the NFL. I mean, I mentioned over the past 2 months, like the last time I can remember a year like this is 2009. I remember a year being like this. And if you look, I mean, how favorites are doing, I mean, they're it's like 72% straight up. That's the most profitable since 2009. And yeah, it's very bizarre. I mean, I've had some bad calls. I have to just be better. But every week there's like two underdogs. Like last week, I think underdogs over a field goal went 1 in 10 against the spread, um, which is just very rare in the NFL that it keeps happening. But there's like one or two underdogs every week that is the dead nuts right side and then just doesn't cover somehow. Like in the NFL, usually those you'd get in the back door. Or just they're not even winning outright, but you usually find a way to cover. The Colts are the perfect example of that. I mean, they were dominating that game, and you're catching 4.5, and they're about to go up 20-7. Bo Nix can't do a thing, and then they drop the ball going into the end zone. They fumble it to give up a short field touchdown. They give up a punt return to give another short field touchdown. Then they throw just here's a gift pick six from the receiver when they still had a chance to cover.
Yeah, that was nuts.
I mean. So yeah, it's tiring, but I also had some bad calls. And I got lucky on the Eagles under. They had a 21 play drive to end the game, most amount of plays on a game-ending drive without points in NFL history. And yeah, I was dead wrong on the Bucks. Herbert definitely wasn't healthy, but credit Liam Coleman and Baker. I didn't think they were going to have that many explosive plays and just torch that Chargers secondary. Um, was right on the Bills. Josh Allen destroyed that defense, but also wrong on the Panthers. Of course, I should not have bet the Panthers as a favorite. And yeah, lots of turnovers. I was on the Browns with you. Um, but yeah, it's just a weird year in the NFL. I got to be better. Sorry to anyone who's been following any. So let's just got to keep grinding. There's been like I said, 2009. I think there was one like 8 years ago that are just like this sometimes, and you just keep marching on, hope to get hot. Process doesn't change.
Yeah, I mean, I will say there's one thing that I'm going to be looking into more as the season wraps up that I do think is affecting, especially the favorites and backdoors and things like that. Uh, Scoring is up about a point over last year. Drives per game per team down about a drive. So now teams are averaging about 10 drives a game. It's always been usually 11 or higher. So there's just less drives in games. Usually you would say, okay, shorten the game. That would help like the underdog. But that's where I think it's getting interesting because I just think some of these teams aren't, there's not as much variance either, right? So, some of these favorites I think are just becoming more predictable, something I got to look into more, but that is something I'm noticing.
Yeah, that could be
Uh,
part of it, but there's also it's just weird things, and you got to remember it's small sample sizes
yeah,
and just in one NFL season. But think about all the games like the Broncos have covered um, over the past 3 weeks, and this will transition into Thursday night.
yeah.
I
Let's
mean, they cover against the Browns on two pick sixes, and the Browns can't score from the one. The Raiders can't score from the one. And then you had the Colts last week who hold them to like 180 total yards. They get multiple non-offensive scores, drop a touch. Like those things are just happening more frequently this year, and they tend to even out over time. But it's just been a pretty
yeah.
wild year.
I think what it is it's the the bad teams and the unlucky teams, the overlap is very similar this year. Like it's like you're not like you're getting so like the bad teams are the ones that are kind of creating their own bad luck in a way. It's like you're not able to overcome it. Like they're just it's like yeah, the Raiders and the Colts, like the teams you expect to make stupid mistakes and let covers slip away are just doing it and they're not recovering as much as like in years past. Like that luck isn't bouncing back toward the other way, and maybe that's something to do with the fewer drives in the game. So either way, let's get into the Broncos at the Chargers. Chargers down to a 2.5-point favorite, so that was at 3, and that came down to 2.5. So some significant money looks like it came in on the Broncos on the road here. The total 42, that came down about a half point. I think the first thing that jumps out to me about this is Chargers trending down. That when they had their start to the season, it was mainly playing a bunch of weaker offenses. Herbert, even though he was banged up, they weren't really playing offenses that were giving him a ton of stress on the other side. So he was able to get healthy. When he did start getting healthy, they started looking like a real threat. But now Herbert's hurt again, and the defense is playing tougher opponents, and teams are starting to figure out some of their schemes because it was a very kind of just let's sit back and zone. Let's make sure we're fundamentally sound and whatnot. But I just feel like it's Chargers are going to continue to trend down here, but I just don't know if Herbert is 100% healthy either, which kind of factors in. What are your thoughts about this one?
Yeah, I don't mind the underlook here. I mean, Bo Nix is getting a lot of love. He's terrible. Yeah, he can be walked into and have his hand held in Sean Payton's offense when everything is going right. But I mean, he's 26th in EPA plus completion percentage over expectation, 25th in adjusted EPA per play. I want to fade I think the Broncos are the most overrated team in the NFL. I mean, I just mentioned their past 4 weeks. I mean, you played the Falcons. Cousins has been benched. We know how bad they've been, and their entire secondary was out. They played the Raiders. Their entire secondary was out, and they were at the goal line. They were at the 1 yard line to cover. Then you play the Browns, get outplayed the entire game, and then just get multiple pick sixes. Even cover that game because the Browns can't score. And then last week you play the Colts, who aren't any good, and you get outplayed, and just find a way to still put up 31 points with 180 yards of offense because of just gifts. Nix was horrendous in that game. He couldn't see the field. It was really bad. Do I want to bet the Chargers here? And still, it's still so far the only team that the Broncos have beat with a winning record is the Bucks. Way back earlier in the season, but I agree with you. The Chargers are trending down. I think that you have part of it's the league starting to figure out some of what they're doing on offense because a lot of it has to be scheme because they just don't have a lot of talented weapons on the outside, and the run game has cratered without Dobbins. And then now you have Justin Herbert who's not healthy. You could see that last week. Didn't even try to run. Got banged up again, aggravated his injury, and then their offense couldn't do anything the rest of the way after they were up 17-10. So I want to play the Chargers here, but I don't know how healthy Herbert is. And that's concerning to me because their interior, their offensive line dealing with some injuries too. The Broncos are going to send blitz. They can play man. The Chargers offense has been significantly worse versus man. So I just worry, how are they going to move the ball? You got to just have a huge McConkey game here. Because the run game's not there anymore. The weapons are limited against man. They just haven't been there, and the Broncos might be able to get pressure here. On the other side, I expect the Chargers defense to bounce back just because I don't think this Broncos offense is any good. Divisional game, lot on the line. Both teams probably play close to the vest early, so I don't mind an under, a first half under. I lean Chargers. I just need more insight on Herbert and his health, but this Broncos team is on my fade list. Sadly, I faded them in the last 2 weeks and have nothing to show for it. Story of my season, but I I can't play the Broncos here. If you wanted to play the Broncos and are interested and think that the Herbert's not fully healthy, you could tease them. Low total, divisional game, 2.5 up to 8.5. But I will be targeting a Broncos fade for sure next week in Cincy, assuming Cincy doesn't lose to Cleveland. But small lean to Chargers, but Herbert health, and that's the story of this week. I mean, this is the hardest week of the NFL I can remember on a Wednesday. Yeah, I mean the quarterback changes and the quarterback injuries are extreme, and then on top of that, you have a bunch of key, either defenders, cluster defense injuries, or skill position players that are uncertain. This is a tough week. Herbert had just another one to add to the list. So lean under, lean Chargers, but not sure if I'll get to the window on either.
Yeah, I think I'd probably feel better about teasing the Broncos than playing the Chargers here because it's a short week and Herbert did not look right in that game. I don't know.
No, he got tackled and then he was just not the same. He was clearly aggravated.
And the thing about it is, I think I'd lean to the under as well because I mean, Greg Roman, he's like abandoned the run game too, which is surprising. I mean, it's not all that you can't knock them for because they haven't been able to run, but now it just creates a situation where, I mean, what are we doing? Are we going to just drop back and try to get the ball out super quick? And, that hasn't really, they don't, like you said, they don't have the man beaters, so I struggle to see how the Chargers, bounce back fully on offense. Denver's defense has been good. And then, Denver, I mein, they've been pretty pass heavy too. They can't run the ball, now McLaughlin is banged up. So, that's the only thing that would kind of worry me is that both of these teams might go pass heavy, but I don't see them being very efficient either way. So
yeah, that's a good point. I will say that like in the first meeting, the Chargers dominated the Broncos and the Broncos scored 16 points in the fourth quarter to make it look respectable. The Chargers were 23-0 in the fourth, and the Chargers were 3-point favorites on the road. And Herbert was also dealing with an injury ahead of that game. So this is just this is why I think it's just inflation on Denver because they just cover every week. It's kind of a buy low, sell high, is why I would lean the Chargers. But just how healthy is Herbert on a short week does worry me a bit. Now the Chargers don't have much of a home field advantage, but the Broncos do. So it was 3 on the road, and now you're getting 2.5 at home.
Well, you're losing even more because I'm seeing a lot of Broncos fans saying that they're not going to be able to make the game here at SoFi because usually you have an advantage the other way. Like you have the road team fans
because it's SoFi, a weeknight game,
but it's because it's got flexed from Sunday to Thursday. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of Bronco fans that missed. So yeah, the home field it'll be as much as the Chargers could have. It'll probably be for this game, but yeah, I think probably under. I just don't. I don't see either offense having much success, and I agree. I think the Broncos, no way they should have scored 31 points last week. Probably should have given up more, but this Charger offense has been going downhill. They just can't every single game. They can't seem to get more than 17 these days. I mean, it's like they had all those picks and turnovers against the Falcons, or they end up winning 17-13. Against the Chiefs, they get to 17. They need a bunch of second half drives. I mean, Bucks, they get to 17. Even they got out to 17-10 lead, and it's just, it's rough sledding for their offense right now.
All right. Every single one of those games you mentioned, I lost money on. It's just a painful year.
Yeah, man. It's tough. Hey, I got to bounce back too. So let's get into our Week 16 Sunday six pack. All right. So for those new to the show, 2 points for each of our first 2 picks, point for the third, point for the total, which we'll give out in the next segment. Stuckey making a little comeback, 46-34. You're down, so I got to get back on the right side. Had a couple of rough weeks. My pick is up first. So for the first pick, first overall of the Week 16 Sunday six-pack, I'm going with the Buffalo Bills, -14 against the New England Patriots. And I just don't see how Patriots keep this close here. And I know it's a division game, but I look at Buffalo and, this is what they've been known to do, blow teams out when they do win. And they're plus 17.3 in terms of average victory margin at home this season. The Patriots are 3 points worse on the road than they've been at home. So, when you start to get to these extremes, you don't really like to go past, 14-17 if you're a book. We saw it with the Giants Ravens last week with the Ravens on the road. But just looking at this Patriots team, they can't protect Drake May. Their offensive skill players can't create anything outside of what Drake May creates for them. And defensively, they can't stop the run. They're not great against the pass. And they don't seem to have like they're coaching wise, like they don't seem to have any like they don't seem to have any creativity. They don't seem to have anything that's giving them an edge. Buffalo's getting healthier. Their offense really hasn't been fully healthy all year. Do have some defensive guys on the injury report, but that's against the Patriots, that's minimized. So I know it's a division game late in the year, but Buffalo has been rolling. They've been getting a 30 every single week. I just don't see how the Patriots keep up here. So give me the Buffalo Bills minus 14.
Not my cup of tea, but I mean, I'd make it. I projected a little under 14. I want to see the Bills defense. Like, are they going to be healthy defensively? Like, they have three starters that were out in the secondary. They were all limited. Milano limited. Do they get those guys back? If not, then it just becomes. I would just worry about a backdoor. Bills
Less
flying
possessions this
high.
year. Less possessions, remember?
Yeah, Bills flying high after that win over the Rams, but their defense has not been good. I mean, they played
Yeah.
great offenses, but
That's why we're
um,
getting value here. I think this line would be bigger if the Bills, like they had to give up 40 points in back-to-back weeks. The Patriots aren't a threat for that, in my opinion.
yeah, I mean,
We haven't seen anything to the contrary.
Patriots. Yeah, I mean, they're going to try to play a lot of man. They can't stop the run. They're going to try to blitz. Those are not recipes for success against the Bills, but no, nothing for me there. So I will root for you to get to the window. For my first pick of the Week 16 Sunday six pack, I'm going with the New York Jets plus 3.5 at home against the Los Angeles Rams. Number one, I don't usually show this much value in my numbers this late in the year, but I do on this one. I'm closer to like 1.5. And this is across a key number. I have to bet this is my favorite bet of the weekend. If you look last year, we'll start here. Last year, the Rams, you remember they went on a late season surge to get into the playoffs. But after that surge, I believe, was this week 16? No, this is week 17. They had just won on Thursday night over the Saints. Huge divisional game on deck. They went to New York. Again, we're going to New York this weekend. It's the same exact situation. Played Tyrod Taylor, should have lost the game. They won 26-25. There's a chance that they come out just a little flat, riding high, but this is situationally, I don't mind it. And this is a team this year. What have they done on the road and outdoors? Their offense is a different animal on the road. I mean, this is a team a couple weeks ago at New Orleans. They might have
Indoors.
lost that game if Taysom Hill doesn't get hurt. They do nothing in the first half of that game. The offense against San Fran last week did nothing. New England, even a month ago, that game was what 14-10 at the half. Offense opened up in the second half, but it's not like this team has been. You can go back to games at Seattle, a game they should have lost, had no business winning that game. You lose at Chicago, get blown out at Arizona. I mean, what has this team done on the road all year? It's just a different offense, indoor team going across the country outdoors in December. And this Jets, so just selling high here, a Rams team that's won 7 one-possession games, 3 in a row. Jets, meanwhile, have lost 7 one-possession games. They're much better than their record. And Rodgers looks much better. I think he's healthier now. I think he was dealing with an injury early on this season, but over the past 4 games, 8 touchdowns, 1 interception, completing 68% of his passes. Jets averaging 26.5 points per game. I was worried about their secondary injuries because last week they were just down everybody. DJ Reed's good to go. Sauce Gardner will be in there. So they're probably going to give up a bunch on the ground, but this Rams defense is trending in the wrong direction. I think some of their younger guys might be hitting a little bit of a wall. The secondary is bad. Maybe they get Durant back this week, which will help, but they're going to play a lot of zone. Rodgers can tear that apart. He's been much better, much better against zone this year, and they can play more man against the Rams, which you want to do against Stafford. Eventually, the Jets are going to have some fourth down luck. They're going to have some close game luck. I mean, on fourth downs this year, they're 7 of 17. Their opponents are 13 of 17. And I just think this is way too many points. I don't think this line should be over a field goal. So a little bit of a potentially a tricky spot. Rams know that most likely their season's going to come down to that Seattle game at the end of the year. Team's just not the same outdoors. Jets have just been unlucky all year, and their offense is trending up. And I think just from a schematic standpoint, I think it's a decent matchup. So give me the Jets +3.5 at home.
Yeah, I have some more thoughts on this game, which I'll keep those tabled. So you keep going through the six pack, but I'll definitely have more on this game. For my second pick and the third overall of the week 16 Sunday six pack, I'm going with the San Francisco 49ers +1.5 at the Miami Dolphins. And this spot to me is a spot where both of these teams have underperformed a ton, but I think when you look at San Francisco and you look at some of the issues that they've had, a lot of them can be pointed towards specific things, namely injuries and weather games and backup quarterback games. And we've had for San Francisco a bunch of those in the last four. You had a weather game against the Rams. You had a weather game against the Bills. You got blown out in both of those. You had a game against the Packers that was a little bit of both, backup quarterback, weather, and whatnot. So, and then before that, you were just kind of blowing games, close games that, getting some bad luck. Miami, I have San Francisco's power rated ahead of Miami by, couple of points here. And Miami is now getting to the point where their injuries are adding up as San Francisco is getting a little bit healthier. Now, it's obviously San Francisco still is missing some key guys, but Miami, is Armstead even going to play again this season? We don't know. Now you're starting to lose receivers left and right. Defenses have figured you out. I thought that Texans game plan is something that you're going to see a lot more of with Tua. I think the staff familiarity.
They can't run it either.
Yeah, they can't. They no explosiveness on the ground despite all the speed. And
that's the O-line.
Yeah, and you have a staff familiarity here, which I think because Miami is a team that you really need to scheme against them, and if you can, you're going to have success. And you look at Miami, it's for all the just underperformance San Francisco has done, because we know Miami always struggles against good teams. San Francisco is not a good team this year, at least not by record. But you look at Miami, and Miami's won games against the Raiders, the Jets in overtime. And again, they probably should have lost. They couldn't get a stop. The Patriots, the Rams is probably their best win. And twice against the Patriots they've won. And then they beat the Jaguars on the first game of the season by 3 points. This team has not put it together, Tua or not really, with anything. They have really no impressive wins on the year, unless, except for that Rams game indoors, when their season was on the line at 2-6, and that's it. Like everything else has been closer than it should have been. Their defense, when you look at some of the talent on the back end, and then you look at how they played. I mean, Jalen Ramsey, I see him trailing every single play. Just guys are open. Their safeties just haven't been as good. So I'll take the San Francisco team that's getting healthier on defense, that knows how to scheme against Tua, with a banged up Waddle who might not go, and a Miami team that just hasn't really been able to show anything versus anyone, anyone of any kind of merit except the Rams here. Give me the San Francisco 49ers in a game in Miami where the weather looks, as of right now, 70 in the 70s, minimal wind, clear. So this is a type of game where you expect that Niner offense, and Purdy, I don't know what's going on with him. He must still have some residual issues from that injury earlier in the year, but this weather should help him out here. So give me the 49ers on the road +1.5 at Miami.
Yeah, I like this. This would have been one of mine. I'll be on this. I don't think Waddle's going to play. That means the Dolphins only have 3 healthy receivers. Tyreek Hill, who's just not the same player he was, and you can just bracket him, take him away, especially without Waddle. Washington and River Craycraft. Malik Washington, or River Cribbett. That's it. It's the only
And they
three
play
healthy.
they play John, like the tight ends. San Francisco still plays tight ends well. I know Warner's playing through that ankle, but John's really been that he's been the saving grace for them receiver
Yeah, but
wise.
he also can't run block. That's part of it.
Yeah.
And Greenlaw's back, and he
Yep.
looks like he's good to go. So they'll even be better against tight ends. And yeah, they're all the Miami offensive line's banged up. They can't run it. There's no Waddle. And you said that Miami can't beat good teams. I still have San Francisco rated power rated as a top 10 team.
Yeah.
And they've just been extremely unlucky. The extra rest in this scenario, I think, will help because both teams are dealing with injuries. So San Francisco with that extra rest has a better chance of getting healthier with like Williams, Bosa, Mustafa. So I think that they'll be in better shape. Dolphins zone heavy defense. That's very good news for Purdy and Purdy, Kittle, and pretty much everyone on this offense. So I agree with you. Really tough game because where are both teams at mentally?
Yes.
They've
Yeah.
essentially had both of their seasons ended last week. So I'm just going to trust the healthier team, the better team that has, I think, matchup advantages on both sides. All right, for my second pick and the fourth overall, the Week 16 Sunday six pack, I'm going with the Las Vegas Raiders -1 at home against the Jacksonville Jaguars. I told you, this is a tough week. I'm waiting on so much injury stuff. I assume O'Connell's going to play. He was at practice today. That's all I wanted to see. I've liked what I've seen from him this year, and specifically against man. And I mean, the Raiders, number one, they're eventually. We just talked about luck. Luckily, they're playing another bad team. Something good has to happen for them. I mean, you look at some of these stats this year. They're -19. They have a -19 turnover margin. The fumbles. This is just, I mean, almost statistically impossible. They fumbled 18 times, lost 13. Their opponents have fumbled 9 times, and they've lost only one. There's been 27 fumbles in their game, and they've recovered 6. That's like un unbelievable. Teams are also, what, 80% on fourth downs against them. They're, I think, closer to 50%. It's unbelievable how unlucky they've been. And they're a bad football team. Don't get me wrong. But and they've lost what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. They've lost 10 games in a row. Not one. They're all above average teams that they've played. I mean, it's been maybe not the Falcons, but that was a Desmond Ridder game. They've also had like games where their entire secondary has been out. It's been bad. So yeah, the Jags. I think the difference in this game to me, the Raiders have a better defense overall. I know Crosby's out, which hurts a bit, but if you look season-long numbers, just at EPA per play, Jaguars are the worst defense in the NFL. Raiders sitting around like 20th. They've even been a tad better in some metrics against the run. But the Jags are a lot stronger against the run than the pass. Raiders aren't going to be able to run it. No sense you're McCormick now. This is drop back and throw it. Jags aren't getting pressure. They're not blitz. I don't know what the Jags are doing defensively. They're back to their just spamming man and doing nothing else, and they can't cover anybody. They don't have anyone to cover Bowers over the tight ends. You have Myers, Tucker, Curto Abdul out of the backfield. The Jags can't stop anybody. So I trust the Raiders defense they'll take away explosive plays. They're going to blitz. They're going to make you efficiently move the ball down the field. I expect Mac Jones to make a mistake or two. So give me the better defense at home. Team looking to end a 10-game losing streak. They're still fighting hard. I mean, you can go back in the O'Connell game in Kansas City, a game they should have won. Last week, they fight till the very end. This team that hasn't quit. And yeah, I have the better quarterback. I have the better defense. And I think a good matchup on both sides. Like, I could see Jacksonville just coming out completely flat for this game. Like, on the road in Vegas. Who knows? Probably out all weekend. So give me the Raiders laying 1 at home, assuming O'Connell goes.
Yeah. I mean, you're essentially saying these teams are dead even in
Yeah, and
power
I have just
ratings.
power rating wise, I have the Raiders better, and they're at home.
Yeah, I mean the thing I would be worried the most about for the Raiders is tanking because you're still live for that number one pick, and but the fact that they would be going back to O'Connell, and I guess that's not a guarantee. It's still Wednesday. He's practicing. Do they actually play him? But going back to O'Connell would signal that they are trying to win because the one thing about the Jags is they've been happy to beat these, to kind of screw up their draft position. Like ever since they were eliminated, they played the Jets hard. They beat the Titans. Like they've been feisty. But if the Raiders are trying to win, yeah, I mean, you would take the Raiders because you're getting home field and you're essentially saying these teams are equal. I think the Raiders are a little better. I mean, Crosby, does worry you just because, leadership wise and whatnot. But I mean, yeah, you held the Falcons to 15 points in that game and you're still at home now. So yeah, I don't mind it. But would love to see O'Connell like confirmed in because that confirms that they're not actually trying to tank because they are live for that pick.
Yep.
All right. For my third pick, the fifth overall of the week 16 Sunday six pack, I'm going with the Tennessee Titans plus 3.5 at the Indianapolis Colts. And the big thing for me here is that the Titans are going back to Rudolph. And if you look at the two quarterbacks, Levis and Rudolph, and Levis, remember, he had that stretch where he came back and he was solid. He was taking more sacks, but he wasn't turning it over as much. But if you look at the numbers overall this year, DVOA, Rudolph minus 8.2%, Levis minus 37.4. Rudolph 26th out of 40, Levis 39th out of 40. Anthony Richardson 36th. So Rudolph is 10 spots better than Richardson and 13 spots better than Levis. DVOA is adjusted for schedule because the thing about Rudolph is he did play the Lions. He played some tougher teams in there, but he also played some easy ones, so it kind of balances out. Success rate, Rudolph 48%, 19th. Levis 40%, 39th. Anthony Richardson 35.6%, dead last 40th. So not only is Rudolph better than Levis significantly, but he's also better than Richardson, who is now trending down to where his numbers have become worse than Joe Flacco's, and Flacco was bad this year. Interception rate, Levis 4.2%, 38th. Rudolph 3.2%, which is still bad, but 33rd. Richardson is dead last. He's got a worse interception percentage than even Levis this year. And the thing about the Titans is their defense has been solid. They're not really getting pressure. And against Anthony Richardson, he's got a 68.3 rating from a clean pocket, 43rd of 44 qualifiers, according to PFF, ahead of only Drew Lock. So I still think the Colts are liable to just lose any game. I mean, last week they probably should have won, so I get it. People are a little weary about fading them, but this Colts team is not good. They can't complete passes, barely can complete passes from a clean pocket, and now you're getting a somewhat competent quarterback for the Titans, who already had a fairly competent team outside of that. Your defense is actually 14th. It's above average in terms of DVOA, better than the Colts. So really, it's your offense dragging you down. Special teams isn't great either, but the offense really dragging you down. And that's out of the picture. They can play spoiler here, so I do think they show up, and all the pressure's on the Colts here. So I'll take over a field goal with the Tennessee Titans in a spoiler spot with a better quarterback than I think the Colts have right now.
Yeah, I mean, these are just two teams that just try not to cover every week. So I mean,
fair.
I guess take
fair.
the points.
Very fair.
The Titans, their defense has been running a bit bad. I mean, I think over the past 3 games, they're allowing a 65% third down conversion rate. So they're due for a little bit of regression there. And Colts aren't the team that's going to efficiently beat you and move the ball down the field. Rudolph is better. I do worry about him against zone. Colts defense is trending up since they've been healthier. They're playing really well right now. But Richardson laying points, I can't blame you. But these two teams just cost me money all year.
Yeah, fair. I get it. I get it.
But yeah, Peyton Richardson laying points though.
Yeah, it hasn't been pretty. I mean, he could be worse. It could be worse than it has been. I mean, you got that win against the Patriots with a 19-play drive and a 2-point conversion. to save it. Like it makes the Colts, margin look a lot better. But yeah, it's been bad.
All right, for my third pick and the sixth overall, the Sunday six pack, I'm going with the Chicago Bears plus 6.5 at home against the Detroit Lions. I know this would have been one of yours.
Yeah.
I wish it was 7. Um, doesn't matter for the contest since pushes don't matter, but have to play this. I mean, I played the Bears in the first meeting against the Lions. That was in Detroit. I think that line closed 8.5, 9. I'm gonna wait on 7. If you're listening to this, still want to follow me, wait to see if the 7 pops. It's gonna probably be a lot of public money on the Lions. We'll see if it can matter enough. But number one, I can't get to this number. Number two, it's pumpkin golf outdoors. This isn't golf indoors, and he's going against his zone, which you want to do against the Lions. I mean, golf's been a cheat code against man, been kind of almost below average if you look at some metrics compared to the rest of the league against zone this season. So, yeah, I I I like the matchup. Now the Bears are a mess right now. They're a mess. And in the first halves of games, they just don't do anything. I don't understand it. Thomas Brown seems in over his head. Eberflus, it seems like he's missed on the defensive end. They still can't stop the run, which is concerning against the Lions. But you have to take into account, number one, pumpkin golf outdoors. And this Lions defense what do they have left? There's the injuries are extreme, and it's at every single level. Lee McNeil's loss is huge. You lose Carlton Davis. Your linebackers are all beat up. And you also lost David Montgomery. What does that mean that you're going to get Kindle Vildor in there? Aaron Glenn running his same defense, no adjustments. They've benefited from playing some backup quarterbacks and just blowing them out this year. But this defense has been vulnerable. I've been saying it's overrated. Caleb Williams can use his legs here. Just this defense is a shell unit. It's a shell of what it was, and I thought it was already overrated. It's a shame for the Lions because if they cannot, they can still win the Super Bowl. Any team can win the Super Bowl this year. That's good in the discussion. They need to get home field, and because they need to play one less game, they need to play at home because these injuries, it's unfortunate. Because I thought if they were actually healthy, that loss against the Bills would actually serve them well. Glenn, realized he has to make some adjustments because their defense was just getting by doing the same things, and they didn't really face any elite quarterbacks. But now the injuries just might be too much for them to win a Super Bowl. What they have to do is get home field advantage, one fewer game. Their offense obviously is still going to be very good at home, and then they just got to outscore teams for 3 games in a row. But the injuries are just unfortunate. Feel for Lions fans. Last year, like, you never know when you're going to get back. We say it all the time. And the injuries, they were pretty healthy last year. Not the case right now. Bears have been bad the past 2 weeks, which is concerning, but they were horrendous for 2 weeks in a row earlier this season after some heartbreaking losses. And, they went to Arizona. Looks like they didn't even show up. And they came home and lost to New England in a blowout loss. And then they just played a bunch of close games against division opponents. So I feel like they will get up for this game. And this is kind of like their last hurrah at home. So I just think it's a bit too rich on the Lions, given their injuries, getting golf outdoors. And I think the Bears do show up bottom of the market, very, very bottom of the market on the Bears right now. So give me Chicago reluctantly. Hopefully one of these ugly dogs can get to the window. But I know that you like this as well.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts here?
So the reason I was looking at Chicago, number one, I think there's a little bit of a misperception because they played 3 straight road games, starting with that Detroit game. So they've been on the road for 3 straight. At home, they're actually a plus 3.2. They've just been getting blown out on the road. So yeah, I think that plus Goff struggling against his defense historically. Now the thing that kind of made me switch out of it and say, okay, what, I'm going to go a different way with this one, and you end up taking it. Was I saw the injury report, and they have 3 offensive linemen on the injury report, and then I'm seeing the Lions activating Melifonwu, and so I just need to see a bit of more a final injury report because it's just early, and like you said, I think getting the 7 would be kind of ideal here. But yeah, I do think the Lions are vulnerable. I do think people are going to overrate Goff after coming off the 494 yards, at home indoors. And the Bears defense still still has a lot of talent. Hasn't been playing as well lately, but I think some of that is going on the road. So, yeah,
Their
I'm
receivers
leaning
also should have
Bears.
huge advantages here on the
Yeah, yeah,
outside. Just get the ball
yeah.
out quick. Caleb can use his legs. You just hope they don't dig themselves too much of a hole. I mean, in the first meeting, I mean, the last 3 weeks, but you're right. They've been on the road 3 straight weeks, and they had. You look before that, they played the Vikings at home, lost in overtime. They played the Packers at home, lost by one on a blocked field goal. Um, so, this year, and then Detroit, they lost by three in Detroit. Their best performances have been at home and against teams within their division. I mean, at home this year, outside of that New England game,
Which the older linemen were hurt, which is what worries me. But
yep,
yeah,
outside of that New England game, they've been pretty good at home all year. Let's see, 1-0, 2-0, 3-0, 4-0, 5-0, 6-1 against the spread at home this year.
one of those was in
Um,
London, I think, right, against the Jags. I think one of those was in London. But yeah, yeah, they've been
you're correct. Yeah,
much
5-1
yeah
against the spread at home.
much different team at home.
Yeah, so this yeah, it's just too many points. But wait on the 7. That's what I'm gonna do.
All right, that is gonna wrap it for our Week 16 Sunday six pack. Stuck. You got the Jets, Raiders, Bears. So that's Rodgers, O'Connell, Caleb Williams. Kind of a
That
wide
is,
mix. Yeah.
yeah, very
I
bizarre
got
group.
Allen, Purdy, and Rudolph. So yeah, 2 out of 3 ain't bad. If Purdy is still Purdy. But let's
I
try to get
think
back
Purdy, by the
on.
way, getting back to that, Purdy has always struggled in weather his
Mhm.
whole career. And 2 of his last 3 games where he didn't look good,
Yeah.
he was in weather.
A little bit of
And
overreaction.
in the middle of that, he looked perfectly fine when the weather was okay against the Bears. So
Yeah.
I think that he's healthy.
All right. Favorite total of the week. Stuck. Where you going?
Let's go back to the Eagles under. Eagles Commanders under 45.5. Part of this is the Washington offense is trending down. Starting to see some of those things that I worried about with Daniels and his pressure to sack ratio uh, has started to skyrocket. How many times did he get sacked against the Saints?
7, 8? It was a
Eight
ton.
times.
Yeah.
Bad. And yeah, just the Cliff Kingsbury
8.
offensive trend, downward trend. I think we're starting to see teams have figured out that offense. The offensive line, I think, was overperforming early in the season. It's just McLaurin. There's probably no Ertz, which I think is like a nice security blanket on third downs and has done a lot more for that offense than I thought. He's dealing with a concussion. And on the other side, I think the Washington defense is obviously better with Lattimore, and the Eagles going to be run heavy, and you have potential injuries to AJ Brown. We'll see if he plays. There's a big rest day for the Eagles. Their offensive line and Barkley also dealing with an injury, so they might not be at full strength on offense. So, and big second meeting, intra-division, outdoors, late in the year. I like this under, and I said it last week. I ended up getting lucky with the way that it happened. Although the Steelers did nothing on offense, they muff punt, short field, but I said that with an Eagles under, full game under, they could have an 8, 9, 10 minute drive in the second half of a game with a lead. So, and this Eagles defense is trending up. They continue to play really well. I think they can up their man rates for this game. And Daniels has been much less effective against man. And yeah, the Miss Eagles defense is playing out of its mind right now. I kind of wanted to, like, this spot to me screamed Washington, but I just need more clarity on the injury reports. I don't think I would want Washington. I don't want Washington only catching 3 if the Eagles are at full strength. Now, if they're not, that becomes a little bit more intriguing to me. But this is another injury game. I think the injuries could work in the favor of the under, even if the Eagles are fully healthy. Um, I still don't mind this. So yeah, give me the Eagles Commanders under 45.5.
Yeah, you had some explosives in that last meeting with from Barkley, and you still got only to 44. And I think it took a late commander score to even get to that because it was a 26-18 game. So yeah, don't mind it. For my total, I'm going Jets and Rams under 46.5. And I mentioned I'd have more on this game before. So a couple of things, you alluded to it on the Rams side of the ball. Another outdoor road game, this time in what looks at this time like below freezing temperatures in New Jersey for this game. Jets defense looks like it's getting a little bit healthier as well. And the Rams,
Quentin
when
Williams
they
plays.
yeah, right. But the Rams, when they get into trouble, they've kind of just tried to run the ball at a high rate. So you have that also working in your favor. But then on the other side, the one thing about the Jets, I will say that makes me a little kind of just concerned about the offense is that Aaron Rodgers, he goes out to Florida, these two like warm weather games, and he next thing you know, he looks like 30 again. So now, coming back home, I almost wonder if it's not going to be quite as easy for him either. Just
That's
throwing the
fair.
ball around. So I just think that, both of these teams, because Stafford outside of that weather game, is playing well. I think the market's a little high on these teams scoring potential right now, but I could see, the Rams getting run heavy. I could see Rodgers not necessarily just completely struggling, but because this Rams defense isn't great, as you mentioned, but against zones, it could take longer to get up and down the field. Some of the explosives that he's had, I don't think he's going to get 40, 45 yards on the ground again, especially in the cold weather. I don't think he's going to want to put himself at risk for those kind of hits. Stafford's not going to scramble. So, yeah, when these teams get to third and medium, third and long, they are still susceptible to 3-and-outs in this kind of weather. So, and then, don't really love the kicking games for either team. And, it's struggled all year. And now you're talking about an outdoor game. So, if you look at unders in freezing or below temperatures over the last decade, 61 and 39, 61%. And these early window MetLife games, a lot of people, maybe don't really pay attention, think it's like, okay, it's sunny out, it's fine. But these 1 p.m. Eastern MetLife games, where you have wind at least in, above 5 miles per hour, 62 and 37 to the under since 2010, 63%, including 4-1 this season. So this is one of those kind of games where it looks like two offenses that are trending up on paper for the most part, but I think you're going to see some struggles here. Just some return to ugliness. So give me the under 46.5 Jets Rams. All right. So we got Jets Rams. We got Eagles Commanders 45.5 for the Eagles Commanders, 46.5 for Jets Rams. Now it's time for our favorite teaser of the week. All right, Stuck. Hasn't been a big teaser year. Been a lot of weeks where I'm like, I don't even like any of the teasers. I do like one this year. And I know you like one. So why don't you start us off?
Yeah, I'll just keep it simple, basic. He's going through 3-7 with two favorites. Cincy down from 7.5 to 1.5. I mean, the Browns are going number one. They have a bunch of injuries on defense now. They were down a couple guys in the secondary last week, and the pass catchers are hurt. I had we both had the Browns last week. I was really counting on Njoku to play. They missed him a lot. We'll see if he can go. But they're going to DTR, and DTR is arguably the worst quarterback in the NFL. And there's like 10 bad ones playing right now, like really bad. I don't understand why they're doing it. I guess it's just a tank move. I don't know.
Yeah, I thought they couldn't. I thought they were going to bench Jameis. Like I was like, this Jameis seems like the one quarterback is like, no matter what he does, how many picks he throws, why would they bench him? And of course they bench him. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you look since the merger, DTR has the lowest yards per attempt of any quarterback. He has.
What? Really?
Yep.
Holy crap. I
Um,
didn't even know that. I know it was like 3.9, right? I just didn't realize it was the low. Wow. Okay.
and
Eesh.
if you look, like they have like the same turnover worthy play rate, but Jameis has like double the yards per attempt. Um, this is a downgrade. Yeah, I mean, like you have no upside, and you're probably still going to turn it over a bunch. Like, you can't run the ball either, so the Cincy defense should be able to hold its own here. And I mean, Burrow and that offense are scoring on anybody right now. So I think the Bengals are are safe to win this game. And the Bengals aren't out of it to get to the playoffs. It's pretty wild, but I think the best path for them, I mean, it's a big long shot. This is what they need to happen. They need to win out. They play DTR this week, then they play the Broncos at home, and then they play the Steelers at home in the finale. Now, the Steelers could potentially have clinched the division and their playoff seed by then, which could help them. But I kind of like them in that game anyway. Um, so they need to win out. They need the Broncos or Chargers to lose out. Broncos more likely. They're underdogs this week, and the Bengals play them, so they control one of their losses. And then the Broncos in the finale play the Chiefs. And with Mahomes beat up, there's a chance that the Chiefs drop one of these next two games, a greater chance, which means the Chiefs would have to win that game for the one seed, assuming the Bills keep winning. The Bills play nobody the rest of the year. So there's a chance that the Chiefs care in that Broncos game. And then the other two things that they need to happen, they need the Dolphins to lose one more game, which we think it's going to be this week. And then the most unlikely is they need the Colts to lose a game. But it's Anthony Richardson. But the Colts play Mason Rudolph, Drew Lock, and Mac Jones to close out the
Oh
year.
man.
So it's not the chances are slim, but like I can see the path and like the way certain injuries have broken and the way that the schedule could break where teams care could happen. I think the AFC playoffs will be much better if the Bengals are in the playoffs.
Yes.
But so yeah, let's take the Bengals down to 1.5, and then I'm curious to get your thoughts on this game. I'm going to go Atlanta down to 2.5. It's going to be Penix versus now this line has come down versus Drew Lock. It looks like he's going to start the which I'm surprised they just didn't go with Boyle. Like they were
Yeah.
Neighbors was like hyping him up. But Lock's been arguably the worst quarterback in the NFL this year, just from an EPA perspective. It's bad. I mean, Atlanta, the line went from 10 to 8.5, which made this teasable. Now it's tough because it's a rookie in his first start. You're also going, it's like a different type of quarterback. He's even different. He's left-handed. But I think that you could argue it's an upgrade. Now there's more uncertainty, but I think it might end up being an upgrade. I mean, you can actually get outside the pocket. You could do so much more with this offense now. Cousins has completed 3 passes outside the pocket all year. That's like unfathomable. So you can their offense was just Cousins in the pocket, and you just hope he's not under pressure, and then he can't throw the ball anymore. I mean, he just had a stretch over 5 games with 0 touchdowns and 8 interceptions. Like the Penix, I think, brings more upside. Obviously, there's more downsides. It's his first start as a rookie, but it's not. He's going up against a Giants defense that has nothing left. There's just tons of injuries. So I trust the Falcons at home to get this win by a field goal or more. So give me Falcons, Bengals. What are your thoughts on either one of those?
Yeah, I mean, I've been down on the Giants. I'm still a little worried about the Falcons here, honestly, only because it's mainly because of the line, right? Like we're laying points with the Falcons here. Rookie quarterback, first start. We don't we know what we're getting out of. We know how bad Locke and these giant quarterbacks are, but it's weird to me because you're on a short week as a big favorite. Like, wouldn't you just want the veteran quarterback in that spot? Like, it's like this is a week where it's just like, let's not screw anything up. Let's not create variance. Let's not, we don't need because the only way that the Giants hang around
I think that they just realized that Cousins is hurt, which we've been speculating, and that they're still in the playoff race. And their hardest game that they're going to have to win to potentially win the division, and they're going to need help from the Bucks, but they have the tiebreaker. They're going to need the Bucks to lose a game, but the hardest game is next week at Washington because they closed the year at home against Carolina. So I think the thinking is, let's get the rookie in there. He's our only chance that we even make a run. Let's see if there's upside there. We know Cousins can't do anything. So let's get him game action and in there for a game that we should be able to win with him instead of throwing him out there the next week for on the road in his first ever start. So I kind of get it, but I get where you're coming from too. But I
Yeah.
think
No, I
that's
mean, the Giants probably tanking too because I almost feel like starting Lock over Boyle is like Boyle's look too good because I feel like the Giants keep switching quarterbacks every time one looks like a little decent. They're like, oh, he's hurt. We gotta switch him out. Like they come back in the Saints game and then Lock is out and then DeVito gets knocked out and it's like it's like always to the next guy. And look who looks better and then they don't start that guy. So yeah, the Giants probably tanking, but I will say like I would definitely not feel good about laying the 8.5. I think teasing them if you're gonna back the Falcons is the right move because something interesting first of all, the Browns were kicking with Patterson last week and they had him on the practice squad because they have Hopkins up, but they want to bench him, I guess. So the Falcons swiped Patterson off the Browns practice squad. So now the Falcons put Koo on IR, but Patterson, he's notorious. He's got the leg. He doesn't have the leg for like these long kicks, but he's accurate inside of 45-ish. So you could get an issue where like the Falcons, they punted in the game against the Raiders, I think.
that's when you knew Koo was not
yeah.
right. They punted twice at the 38 indoors.
Right. But you're gonna get more of that because Patterson is that same like he's a better, more accurate kicker than Koo from shorter range, but it's almost like they're kind of saying, okay, we're going to play the field position game. So if we have those things, they're going to punt. So winning by margin, when you combine like a kicker with a weaker leg with the fact that you're starting a rookie quarterback who, does have some kind of unknown downside just because we haven't really seen him play. I would be a little bit worried about them winning by margin. So yeah, I think teasing them down if you're backing them.
And the Falcons, I will say, they have found a little bit of a pass rush of late, which will help because they should be able to get to the quarterback here. But what do you like for your teaser?
So Bengals definitely agree there, and then Niners from +1.5 to +7.5. I don't see the Dolphins blowing them out. I don't even see the Dolphins beating them, but I think the Niners show up here. I think they're the better team. And I think there's a lot of familiarity. I think they know how to defend Tua and like all their previous, like you just saw D'Amico Ryans with a great game plan against Tua. He's a former Niners coach. So like you're gonna have I think success against this Dolphin offense. Your defense is getting healthier, and I think Purdy in decent weather should play well. So like the Niners to keep it close, and the Bengals. Let's go to our underdog money line parlay. All right, underdog money line. Where we going? Got a full slate.
I'm gonna switch it up last second. Give me the Seahawks. This is just on the uncertainty around Geno. If he plays, then I think he's going to try to play, I think. If he plays, then I think that we're getting some good value on this number. And I still believe in the Seattle defense and what they're doing in their improvement. And I think that this Minnesota team is at the peak of its value. They're one of the, I think that they're like, you got to get a ton, they're so well coached, but they have to be, they're up there with the Broncos for me as one of the most overrated teams in the NFL. I mean, if you just look, they've won 7 straight. They beat the Colts with Flacco, the Jags with, was that Mac Jones? Yeah, Jags with Mac Jones, the Titans with Levis, the Bears with Caleb Williams in overtime, the Cardinals, and they should have lost that game.
Cardinals just kicking field goals all day.
Yeah, by 1. And then they beat the Falcons with Cousins, who's been benched. They gave up 500 yards in that game, by the way. And then they beat the Bears last week. Again, like, how many of those teams are playoff teams? 0. So they've won 7 in a row, and then against a bunch of quarterbacks that have been benched. So there's only so much they can do schematically. The back end of their defense, I don't really believe in. I think Seattle will have some advantages, assuming that Geno can go and is relatively healthy. If it's not, like it's a disaster. It's Sam Howell. He's going to get sacked a million times. Um, and it's going to be a mess. But uh, if it's Geno, and I think he's going to try to go, I think we have some value here, and I like the variance there. Um, there's also some offensive line injury concerns for Seattle, so there's just a lot I don't know about that game. But with the variance, I'll take the home money line dog while selling high on Minnesota. I 100% would have been on Seattle here um, if they were fully healthy in this spot. But of course, we have more injuries to quarterback, and I cannot bet Sam Howell. I mean, you'd have to give me 7, maybe, to get bet Sam Howell here.
Yes,
Did you see that
Flores,
last week?
yeah. No, against Flores. I think you have equal concerns for Seattle though, because we liked a lot of their recent schematic changes and just kind of upward trends. But I mean that also came against Arizona twice, the Jets. So maybe those are a bit of a mirage too. I don't really know where we are at Seattle because they. I mean, even before Geno went down, they did not look like the team that they were the last 4 or 5 weeks against Green Bay. So yeah, it's tough.
Darnold also is due for some picks. He can keep you in any game. And I wouldn't be surprised if the Seahawks get some turnovers in this game. But you need Geno, but that's why I'm going with the higher variance play. Where are you going?
Let's go with the Texans plus 140 against the Chiefs. So, right now as we record this, Mahomes is practicing. So, market's kind of back against Houston, but I still think there's a chance that, he either gets held out or that Houston just wins this game. Because Houston, the thing about Houston is, we were so down on them, and then they get the bye. It looked like they cleaned some things up. Their offense was still kind of hit or miss, but the thing about Houston is their defense is number 1 in DVOA. They can get pressure off the edge, and this Chiefs team, especially if Mahomes does go with an ankle that's not 100%, they're still going to be vulnerable to a defense like Houston. And Houston also the only team that really gave Buffalo a lot of problems on offense earlier in the year. So this Houston team can win ugly against the Chiefs here. So
I mean, the D's elite. I mean, you have the two elite. I wish they had Petrie, man, but Lassiter and Stingley are what, 1-2 or 2-3 in the league in catch rate allowed. And yeah, if you're going to have those pass rushers going after, I know that Tooney helped a bit at left tackle last week. I was impressed with what he did there. That was one of the things that I was anticipating with the Browns would be able to just get a ton of pressure. I don't know why the Chiefs kept dropping back Mahomes in that game. And they still did give up a ton of pressure, but left tackle was a bit more stabilized. But you're gonna have those pass rushers going up against Mahomes, who's banged up. There's also higher risk that the good thing with the Moneyline Underdogs, it's higher risk that Mahomes leaves the game with an injury. I mean, the Texans last week, their offense, another favorite that covers somehow, it probably shouldn't have. Their offense is so broken right now. They keep running it on early downs. They have the worst early down offense in the NFL. And now they're going to go up against the Chiefs. Are they you just got to let Stroud throw it here. The Chiefs secondary is not good, and you can't run on them, and you can't run the ball. So that's what concerns me here. But it should probably be another low-scoring Chiefs game, and with the Mahomes injury, adding some variance, I like it. But the Texans they're going to be in the playoffs, but they're getting close. We only have a couple of weeks left. You got to see something, and you're not going to be able to play all of your games at home. And we got to see something from the offense this week, and they're going up against a vulnerable secondary. Just let Stroud. You got to figure it. You're already in the playoffs. Let Stroud just throw the ball this game. That's what I want to see. Early downs.
Yeah, I mean that run game, has bailed them out a ton this year, but
that's matchup dependent though.
Yeah, you can't run.
I don't think they're going to be able to rely on Mixon this week to just hand it off, and so you're not going to be able to just do that in the playoffs in the AFC. when you want to try to beat Lamar, uh, Allen, Mahomes again, like you're gonna have to score and you're gonna have to throw it. They got to figure out their offense and time's running out.
Yeah. I mean, like I think they'll probably be able to slept on though because like I said, I feel like the Bills are the clear best team this time. Like it's not the Chiefs, So like when you say okay, AFC goes to the Chiefs, then you like the Bengals because the Bengals have shown the ability to beat the Chiefs. Well, I think it's the Bills and the Texans are the one team. I know they barely held on, but I mean they gave Josh Allen legit issues.
I wouldn't say the one team. I would say the
So
Ravens.
well, yeah.
The
The Ravens,
Ravens
I mean, the
blew
Ravens,
them out.
we always feel like the Ravens are there. Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
No, but I'm saying their defense
Lamar's.
stopped, just shut down Josh Allen.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, those two teams are going to be, I think, a little bit intriguing. Because we're going to kind of be sleeping on them a little bit coming in because the Ravens, don't have as good of a record, and the Texans, that offense. So I might be looking at some futures for both of them heading into the playoffs. But I agree. I think the Texans, it's in their best interest to kind of do some things offensively more aggressive. But in this game, I do think that they could beat the Chiefs ugly if they have to, and that's kind of not being priced it enough, and we might still get Wentz. So let's go. Oh, so if you parlay, they're both one plus 140. So Seattle plus 140, Houston plus 140, parlay plus 476. All right, now it's time for best of the rest. The games we did not discuss in any other segment. First up, we got the Steelers at the Ravens. Speaking of which, Ravens 6-point favorites. The total's 45. I mean, I would probably look at the Steelers, but if I knew if I knew TJ Watt was going to be in the lineup, but he's questionable. He had ankle injury, and they're 1-11 straight up without him. So it's pretty much as simple as that. Also, not sure on picking. So, any thoughts on this one?
Yeah, their D falls off a cliff without Watt, historically. There's also, you got other injuries to in their defense too. Elliott, Ogunjobi, Jackson that are worth watching. Yeah, I mean Pickens and Watt, the Steelers offense, that's what I was worried about last week. Without Pickens is terrible. They just need to spam, like they need explosive plays. And without Pickens, you're not going to get them. It's a very inefficient offense since Russ has taken over. It's not been great. Unless they're hitting the explosives, mainly to Pickens. The Ravens, yeah, I mean Pickens and Watt are huge in this game. Like if they're both out, I think there should be 7. Now you have this whole Steelers Ravens rivalry where you just take the points, and you usually just do that with the Steelers anyway. I mean, the Baltimore's 1-8 their last 9 versus Pitt. This will actually be the first time somehow that Lamar's playing the Steelers at home in front of a crowd. He's only done it once in his career. He's had a couple times where he's been hurt, and a couple times it was Week 18 where they sat him. It's pretty wild. But since 2008, favorites of 3 or more in this matchup between Harbaugh and Tomlin. Favorites of a field goal or more, 2-19-3 against the spread. Harbaugh as a favorite of a field goal or more against the Steelers, 0-11-2 against the spread. 27 of the 33 games have been decided by one possession. Average score 19.5 to 19.3. Over half of the games by a field goal or less. But I will say the Ravens defense, in my opinion, is underrated right now and trending up. And so I don't mind the under here. Again, I played the under in the first meeting. Now that this has gone up to 45, don't mind the under here. I also should mention the Steelers have a kicker edge. Could matter. It mattered in the first game. But the Ravens defense now has life and juice, especially against the pass. And they're getting healthy on the defensive line. They've been good against the run all year. Should be closer to full strength up front. So they're going to be good against the run in this matchup. But on the back end, they made some changes. And Hamilton has gone back to playing more safety than, he's playing more safety than he has all year. And over the past 5 games, like through week 9, he was 40% linebacker, 40% corner, 15% safety, 8% edge. And then now he's playing majority safety. He's allowed 1 catch for 8 yards. They also put Darius Washington at free safety midway through the year. And I mean, there's the veterans they had back there are just washed. And that's been an improvement. You also have Wiggins. You have Humphrey now just in the slot, manning the slot. Wiggins trending up. He's been playing really well. He's top five in the NFL in catch rate allowed. So they got their secondary set now, and the defensive line is getting healthier. So this Ravens defense is trending up at the right time. My gut says the Ravens are going to win this game and cover but I just know not to trust that in this matchup. It's just always close. And so yeah, but injury watch. That's Pickens and Watt. They're two most important players on each side of the ball. So nothing as of now. Don't mind the under. If they're out, I'm probably going to end up teasing the Ravens down for some Saturday action. Maybe with the Texans, get a nice little Saturday tease. Um, but yeah, that's all I got here.
Yeah, I would lean under if, just because I think like you said, the Ravens defense is a little underrated. And the only thing that would worry me would be, the Watt injury. But even if Watt is out, I mean, the Steelers, is Pickens going to be 100% if he's back? I don't know. I would lean under in a divisional matchup like this, but ideally you would have Watt in for that. Cardinals at the Carolina Panthers. Panthers 4.5-point home underdogs. The total is 47. And I mean, the Panthers, they've looked better at times, kind of regressed a little bit last week against Dallas. Probably, a little bit much on the line. I mean, Arizona's just been so inconsistent, but the thing that worries me is that Arizona's at their best when they can run. Yeah, they can run, and they can run here. So
and against zone.
Yep.
Murray against zone.
So
and
I don't
Murray
really,
not under pressure.
Don't really have any interest in anything. I mean, gut says the Cardinals do cover here. So yeah.
Yeah, it's a bad matchup. I mean, good buy low spot. Cardinals, like outdoor team going across the country too in December. I mean, indoor team going outdoors. But it's just a bad matchup. So I small lean to Carolina on the number at 4.5. But I mean, I'm sure they'll throw like a pick six at the end and not cover. That's what'll happen. But it's just not a good matchup. You play zone, they don't get pressure. And I would kind of lean. I consider the over here as my favorite total. I might end up still playing it under 47. I think 46.5 or better. Just because I think Arizona will move the ball at will. They'll be able to run the ball. Everyone can run the ball in Carolina. And Murray rips up zone. And when he's not under pressure, especially. And on the other side, just what makes it murky for me is you have Arizona going outdoors. They've had some games this year where it just doesn't look great outdoors. And I just never know what I'm going to get from the Arizona defense because they're just well schemed, but don't have a lot of talent. But I do think Carolina should be able to run it. Like Young won't be under pressure here. That was really surprised me how much pressure Dallas got last week. And I mean, obviously they turned it over like 4 or 5 times. You're not going to win a game, but Dallas was generating a lot of pressure. You don't usually get that against Arizona, but I just can't figure out the Arizona defense on a week-to-week basis. So I have a small lean to the over. It's a good spot for Carolina. It's just a bad matchup. So pass.
Yeah, and you got to check the weather there too, because it could be some wind, and that could mess things up a little bit. Tampa Bay Dallas Sunday night game. Dallas +4 at home. The total 48.5. Tampa Bay playing really well on offense with Mike Evans back. Any thoughts on this one? I kind of lean. This is another one I probably would lean over. I mean, Tampa Bay is just playing so well on offense that they could. And Dallas has been better than I expected. Cooper Rush kind of held him in there. It is an indoor spot. Although Dallas didn't get there against Cincinnati, so maybe they don't get there total wise against this one. But any thoughts on this one?
Not really. I mean, I got to give a ton of credit to Cohen. Baker Mayfield is playing incredible. Like I kind of want to sell the Bucks, but I just have been wrong on them, and their offense looks so good and it's so well schemed. Going into that Chargers game, they had lost 4 straight. And then they beat the Giants, Panthers, and Raiders. So I was like, am I really that impressed? But putting up 40 on the Chargers, really, and watching it with Evans back, and how good Irving has been, I upgraded the Bucks a ton this past week because I was just too low on them, and especially for this late in the year, it was a very big adjustment. Dallas coming off that win in Carolina showed a little bit more juice. I don't know. I'm kind of right on the number. This is nothing for me here. I
Yeah,
don't really
I
have a
mean,
strong feel. I've been wrong on the Bucks all year.
yeah, like like I think I'd lean toward the Bucks covering here just because their offense, like at some point, like it's probably going to be harder for the Dallas offense to keep up.
And
And the
how's
Dallas
Dallas getting
defense
stops
is,
here? Like
yeah,
Tampa can protect Mayfield. They're going to be able to run it to set up everything else. Like it's hard for me to see Dallas getting consistent stops.
yeah. I was leaning Tampa Bay here as well. I think Dallas, coming off that big win, now defenses they got pressure there, but it's still, like Baker's been great scrambling, so he's creating, and I think really Evans is the key. Evans and Irving, like Evans back, they've been a totally different offense. So yeah, I'd lean Bucks just
And it's just well
doing
schemed
enough.
every week. They have like these adjustments that are depending on who they're playing. I mean, Cohen's been the coordinator of the year, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, it's been great. Baker's taken like another step, and he took a step last year. We thought he might fall off without Canales. He's even
Yep.
better.
Yep.
So yeah. All right, that's a wrap for us. You can hear more of me every week with my guy Sean Kerner talking fantasy DFS, player projections, all that good stuff on the Fantasy Flex podcast, and Stuck talking college football bowl season over on Big Bets on Campus podcast. Stuck is on X at Stuckey2. I'm at Chris Raybon. We're at those same handles on the free award-winning Action Network app. Until next time, let's get this money. Happy
Let go.
holidays.